Good afternoon. Welcome to Friday, November 15th, 2024, public meeting of the Kingston City Land Bank's Acquisition, Disposition, and Construction Committee. My name is Mike. I serve as the meeting's moderator. We do ask that members of the public limit their comments no more than 2 minutes per speaker. And with that, I hand it over to the committee chair, Mr. Aaron Chilich.
Hello, everybody, and happy Friday once again. Now for the public who watched this years later. So we have only a few items today, but a couple of them involve conversation, and they'll maybe take a little time. So to start, why don't we do Kyle and Owen, Keystone updates, financing, and construction. Owen, you want to go first?
Sure thing. So I sent around a summary about where things are at with construction yesterday, but we did our walkthroughs yesterday and have adjusted things a little bit. So I'll pull up my version, which is a little bit different. The overall theme is things are going fine with our Keystone construction project. Can everybody see my screen now? I'm going to make it bigger though.
Skip.
There's kind of two main themes I'd point out from this month to like as far as things to pay attention to. The first is that I'm adding a like a bucket, like a budget bucket into a expected contingency item for Grand Street, just because we're pulling the structural engineers to take another look at the front of the house where the plan that was put in our construction drawings doesn't really work with the existing conditions of the house once we're opened that area up. And so we're revisiting the plan. It's going to be achievable. It's going to be fine. I just think it's going to be one of our bigger change orders from this project because it's going to be a deviation from the plan that we have in front of us. And it's sort of like affects a lot of the front of the house.
So is 69% based on like a price that you've gotten already, or is that like your estimate?
It's my probably overly cautious estimate because
Gotcha.
yeah, basically just dropped a $40,000 bucket into this kind of change orders coming down the road, but still being worked out. We don't even have the drawings from the engineer yet of what is recommended. So
Gotcha. Okay.
it's more I think it'll be a big change order, but I wouldn't, it's nothing to worry about, but that's what that's about. And the second item, like kind of theme, is just that while I've been kind of reporting everything's like keeping up with their schedule, except Gil, which has been kind of like dragging at 10%. Stefan has this month kind of like slipped itself back to where Gil is at as far as dollars out the door. It's basically because the interior of the interior of Stefan has been at um a bit of a standstill this past month, which has been a ongoing source of conversation. My it's every week it's been kind of like the drywall is about to start, but it just hasn't been. My understanding is that it's got started today, which I haven't been over there this afternoon, but so that opens up a whole new parade of subs that can come into the house. And I, while directionally that house like got worse of this past month, I'm not ultimately worried about it reaching its like stopping, its completion date. So yeah, I guess I just make one more comment on that. So like the two projects that are slipping behind are like the dynamism projects, and the thing we talk about schedule regularly, and they understand that it's important, and they're updating their construction schedules. But I think the thing that feels like a little bit different than for me than some of the subs we've worked, I mean, contractors we've worked with that have been kind of like behind schedule, some is that when they do come and do the burst, that they do deploy with intent and like, um, you know, enough mom like energy to get things done. And when they do stuff, it turns out well. So it's you don't wait and then feel like, um, oops, um, you don't wait and then feel like you didn't get what you were expecting after it. So those are my broad strokes.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Questions for Owen reviewing this?
No.
We got at least some at least some of you are signed up to come do a tour around the construction projects in a couple weeks. So um, you'll see that some of them are almost almost feel livable, and some of them are under construction.
Do you have any recommendations, like things that we need to bring for that? Like, is it a hard hat situation in some of them, or like, I think maybe just good to give the group maybe a little what's up about what should be, how we should dress on the site.
Okay, I will.
Yeah. And I just had a question about Grand. I'm curious, like, at what point, I mean, being relatively far into this, what point did it become such a big issue where you like it's such a big change order coming up ahead? Like,
What do you mean by this far into it?
no, I just meant like, I mean, I'm just curious, like I feel like have all the inspections and everything had been done already, or is this just after inspection?
Like how was this discovered, the issue?
Yeah.
When
Yeah. So this, as you can see, this project is intended to start in January of 2025.
Yeah.
So that's in the future. But we've already done a lot of demolition in the building and interior framing. And so during the demolition, so our organization has taken a one-story building and making it a two-story living space. So we're putting bedrooms up in an attic, and the structural drawings for the building are asking for one of the bedrooms to be basically like hung off of the um, a beam supporting the front porch roof of the house.
Mm.
Um, and there isn't a beam there. So it's not like the house wasn't like framed poorly. It's just
Okay.
when it was framed, they framed it fine to hold up a porch roof. We're putting a bedroom that somebody has to live in on it, and the thing that we're supposed to like hang the bedroom off of doesn't exist. So we have to like install that around the front porch, the perimeter, and that's gotta sit on something solid, and then that's gotta sit on something solid. And so we're kind of like following that all the way down to the ground. But it was in the demolition process that we found that the thing isn't there to hang off of.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Owen.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And Kyle, the money side?
On the money side, not a ton to report other than I guess the kind of big update is around LBI spending. our goal was to hit 75%. That allows us to apply for a new round of LBI funding once we hit that number. It's looking like, I know the agenda said 75%, but actually when I ran the numbers this month, it's we're going to be at 72%, more or less, probably a little bit more after that. So very close. We should hit the 75% target, either most likely with our next requisition. The other thing to note is that we're starting to spend ARPA funding on these homes. There was a requirement to spend a certain portion of ARPA funding on each home to allocate it to each of these homes. And for Abby, we have spent all of our LBI funds we have allocated towards it and are starting to spend ARPA funds now. That will happen with each of these homes. We'll run out of LBI funds and start drawing down ARPA funds. So
How did the first ARPA rec go?
Sorry, this is pending, hasn't been done yet.
Oh.
We've done
Oh,
an
I see.
ARPA
Gotcha.
rec previously after the Murray demolition, and that was super easy. Just emailing Bartek, and there was a pretty fast turnaround there. So yeah, just a little more kind of juggling with submitting multiple requisitions to different sources in 1 month, but don't expect any major issues there.
Can you scroll down a little bit so you can just want to see the other homes? Thank you. Abby, there we go. Gotcha. So you ran, yeah, the budget for LBI for Abby got to its end. I see. Okay. Cool.
Questions?
In terms of, these first 4 homes finishes and appliances and all of that, everything we have already, or they have, I don't know how much, I don't know which items like we're supplying or which items to the GC.
We're not supplying any items.
Oh, fantastic. Even better. Cool. Thank you, Kyle. All right, so to bring us to the second item, which is the new LBI award potential uses. We will, because this involves kind of open programs and potential, I'm not sure what the phrase is for it, market things. We wanted to do this in executive session. Can I get a motion to move us into executive session?
Motion to move to executive session.
And a second? Second, all in favor? I'm going to assume Paul in a second, all in favor?
Yep.
Welcome back to the public meeting. So the third and final item, I'm going to kind of present this and then we'll have a quick conversation. So we heard, so I'm just studying my computer. Give me 1 second. There we go. So we heard from the city that the committee reviewing the RFEI, the request for expression of interest, the RFEI responses for the Grand Slam bar site, which to remind you is the site that's between the 2 properties that we're currently renovating, that they chose a different respondent to recommend, not the land bank, to recommend to the Common Council. Until the Common Council kind of votes to dispose of the property to the winning proposal, it's not formally decided. As of now, we're kind of proceeding as though we are not going to get that site because it's kind of a little bit out of our hands, and we have to kind of, I think, at some level, respect the decision of the committee. But we thought it'd be helpful to, and if people don't want this, I'm happy to adjust what I was going to do. In part because there's new people on this committee who, and in part because this is a site that's just, it really goes back. I mean, the origins of this site in the land bank predate my time on the land bank. It goes back to 2018, to the beginning of the land bank. It'd be helpful to quickly like talk through like how we got here, like what the actual history for this site is. So I'm going to share my screen. If I can find that button, there it is. Do you see Acrobat?
Mhm.
Great. So this is the declination letter that we got. Mike requested last week from Bartek, saying that we did not get the award, or like the committee did not recommend us, who recommended another applicant, as this says. This is just a kind of formal thing that was sent. I will say this is like you know, the reason Bartek was not, you know, he's setting this award as head of the housing. We all know that like there's a conflict. He was not involved in the discussions or the decision making process. It was really this other committee, in part because of the kind of obvious conflict. This included in, so there were 5 responses to the RFEI in your package, that package of materials that I sent just before this meeting or this morning, are all 5 responses, which we have now. Our response is in there. I went through it a couple days ago. I think it's great. I think Mike and Kyle and Owen did a fantastic job on it, and I thank you guys for everything you did. It's I think a really excellent proposal. I'm not going to go through it. We've discussed what's in it before, but I invite everybody to go through it. The proposal that was chosen is called the COOP concept, and it's some local people who are making, I think, I don't have it open, so I can't say how they describe it, but in my words, kind of a teen educational resource and mentoring resource center. It's, you know, a really, I think, a beautiful idea and an aspirational proposal. And we'll come back to it in a moment, because a couple of things to say about it and where kind of its impact on the sites that we own on the other side. But to go back to the beginning, this site, you know, in 2018, before any of us were involved with the land bank, the very first resolution that the Common Council ever passed related to disposing sites for the land bank was a list of sites that they were offering to the land bank, Resolution 172 of 2018. And it was a list of 35 sites. Some of the addresses you will recognize the sites that we have already sold or own. Others are sites that were tiny slivers that we chose, you know, not to purchase. There were others that had major title issues, and so we couldn't purchase them. And actually, there's a number that Rupco is now going to be rehabbing. Included on this though was the Grand Slam bar, which is 48 grand, right? 52 grand. There it is, right at the bottom there.
Actually 46.
See, what do I know? 46 grand. There it is. Oh, bar. Of course. How could I not notice bar? So this allowed us to buy it for the price of back taxes, which at the time, as you can see, the back taxes for that site are enormous and continue to accrue. And so we couldn't afford to spend $118,000 to buy the site, so it stayed in the city's hands. We never declined the site. It was still technically ours to buy if we wanted to pay the price of back taxes, but it remained in this limbo for reasons that I think were never entirely clear to us, but involved, I think, a lot of kind of political conversations. The city then, the mayor then recommended that the city sell the site to a nonprofit that's across Broadway called Between the Four Walls. That is a kind of outdoor market. I think is the best way to describe it. And this, so Greg at the mayor's recommendation, the Common Council sold the property to Greg and his nonprofit for $1. And this was in 2022, in July 2022. And he took it. The idea was he would move his nonprofit's headquarters, he would renovate the property and move his nonprofit's headquarters from his home to the Grand Slam bar. Then I just want to emphasize something, because I actually don't, this is the deed, and this is just partially maybe it's just me, but this is the deed that transferred the property from the city to Greg. Because actually, I think it's worth noting that Greg, the deed didn't really give Greg very many options or very many paths to actually completing his project. One of the major, it had a reverter clause, the city could take the property back. And one of the line items in the reverter clause gave him 1 year to complete the project. And the nature of that, besides the fact that it's too tight to do a real renovation, no bank would have ever given him a loan on that, even if he could have gotten a loan, or we don't know if he could have, because of the 1 year reverter, because it's precarious. So the deed, ostensibly sold the property, but it also kind of bound him to things that he couldn't fulfill. The city then, about a year later, once this loads, where is this not? Oh, here, it's just the other deed. The city then took the property back in 2023, in July 2023, May 2023, sorry. So this is the city, the thing reverting back. We didn't know at that point, right? What would, like, why, kind of what would happen next, if it would stay in the city's hands, if we would be able to buy it, if we would be able to buy it under our disposition policy, like what would happen then. But the city then, and this was kind of outside of our control, we were not involved in this conversation. The city then earlier this year released this RFEI, and this is what we responded to. And it's a really open-ended RFEI. It kind of asks for any number of uses and possibilities, and that's what there were 5 responses to. And so this site is really, we're really just getting to the point now where after 5 years, I think Mike and I think will say that he is happy that there's at least a conclusion in sight for this property. I think we all wish that we would have been awarded it, but we understand kind of the virtues of the other proposal. I think the concern, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. The concern at this point, and then I'll open it up for conversation, doesn't have to do with the substance of the other proposal, but it has to do more with the timeline and their capacity to actually complete it on a real timeline. The proposal is, they don't have money to do a renovation yet. They would need to hire a fee developer to actually do the project for them. So there's a lot of fundraising and project management. And I think our concern, talking with Mike and Nate about it, is that we're going to finish these homes, try to sell them mid next year, and this property will continue to be in limbo for several years, as these kind of first-time homeowners are living next door. With not the most safe conditions next to them, and so we've been talking about a note essentially asking that the Common Council, not that they give it to us, the note says that thank you for this decision. If you would just please hold them to a timeline, because we have we're going to be selling these properties and have a kind of concerted interest in this intersection. The language around that email is still kind of in flux, but that's the kind of story where we've gotten here. And unfortunately, it's not what we wanted, but it at least gives us a path forward with the 2 sites on the other side. We don't have to wait anymore to decide whether we're going to demo the garage, whether we're going to rehab the garage. The GCs can proceed as if the house, because we're not going to own the house. That is it. That's the end of my spiel. Questions and conversation about this. I think we're going to do this once more at the board meeting.
Thanks, Aaron. That's really interesting. And I think just like, I don't know how many people have gotten to see this property and the two homes that we have, but they are very much like they're sharing the space in a very real way. Especially, so the house to the left of it, what's with the very narrow, like short porch, not the one on, what's
The,
that?
the one on
Coming
the one
off Broadway?
on Grand, yeah.
Yeah, that, so I mean, I'm curious about what that's gonna look like for those homeowners, whatever it becomes, because they really are on top of each other
So
and
the
their
new
backyard.
this new organization, they have a website already up. They typically they're talking as if they already own the site. They don't own the site yet. But they have a website and stuff. If you just Google the Coop concept Kingston, you can see kind of how they're visualizing it. But they don't have an architect or anything either. It's preliminary.
So their plan is to demo the property or to rehab the property?
To rehab it.
Okay, and this is a design question, Joanna, following up on what you were saying, is there a design imperative to create some more separation between, or to have a plan to create more separation between the properties that we're rehabbing and this other property, either visually or for security purposes? Is that possible?
I just wanted to chime in that we do have 6-foot fences planned already between
Okay.
our properties and this property. The zoning says you got to drop down to 4 feet in the like last 16 feet closest to the street. So we're doing that as well. But I mean, it's like the fence, we can't go any taller with the fence, and we're putting fences in
And
yeah.
I mean, are they opaque fences? Do you know what I mean? Like, are they
Yes,
open fences or opaque fences?
they're opaque fences. They're
Okay.
like solid wood fences. Yeah. So we're kind of doing what we can for screening already. That was always the plan, and I don't really wouldn't really have a brainstorm list of like what else you do except curtains.
I mean, and
I
even
was
just the
sure you'd
sidewalk.
be way ahead of us. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't planning an open concept backyard with this other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so are you just informing us that this letter is being drafted, or do you have questions about, yeah.
I think it was just informing. I think honestly, it was a kind of back and forth just with me, Nate, and Mike. We were just trying to like get the tone right. We don't want to, like, we're not trying to be accused. I mean, to be just to kind of communicate what it says. We don't want to be accusatory. Our goal is not to say that anyone did anything wrong, or that we deserve the site, or that any to question anybody's like judgment. It's really just to say, like, we appreciate we've heard this decision. You know, the mayor's letter to the Common Council, kind of notifying the Common Council of the committee's decision, included a line with some concern. It said basically, like, he asked the Common Council to assess the feasibility of the plan, and our letter is just going to say, basically emphasize that point, like, because if they can do it, that's great. I think we're nervous, given the history of the site. We're nervous that in 2 years we're going to end up in the same situation where the city has the site again, and we're going through all of this. But it's more just a kind of, please take this our concern and the mayor's concern seriously email, is how I describe it.
Sorry
But
if I missed it. It looks like on their website they're having a Q&A and presentation. Is anyone planning to attend that?
Mike attended it.
Oh.
Mike and Kyle both attended
The
it,
one on
actually.
November 23rd?
Oh, there was one last night too,
Oh, okay.
or 2 nights ago.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I see their website says November. I was like, wait, November 23rd.
I don't know if
Okay.
Mike and Kyle, you want to say anything about that presentation?
Not really.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that this, I mean, in some ways it's unfortunate we didn't get the property, but I mean, I don't know if anyone knows about the people who have been named, and like maybe that means something will happen versus it just being in this limbo for like, that was what I was imagining when these properties would be going. So I think, I'm curious if, there's any way to support the people who have, won it, or I don't know, it's not financially, but just like, we all have vested interest in this town, like in what happens here.
I think,
for the,
yeah, I think once they own it, it'll behoove us to introduce ourselves.
I think
Like once
so.
once it's there, it'll behoove us to introduce ourselves, make nice, and talk about kind of the timeline, because it'll only be alright for 6 months, and there'll be new neighbors there. So
Yeah. And Novo is investing in a property not too far away for like a skills lab. Is that still happening? In the old, like,
the brick building on Greenkill.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's done even. I think it's open.
Is it really? I don't,
Am I wrong about that?
I don't know.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
It's not done. They're still working on it though.
Oh,
I live around the corner, so
Yeah, they've been working on it.
oh,
but,
there you go. Thank you,
that's
Paul.
yeah.
Okay.
If I
Well,
could
that's
just
very-
say, I'm sorry,
No,
John.
no. I appreciate the rundown of the whole history of it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. And just to support what Aaron is saying in terms of approach to this, I think this is an opportunity that we could view the land bank as a municipal resource to help like articulate processes, quite frankly. So there will be more RFPs that the city conducts, and a more well-informed municipality that puts in place things like Aaron is mentioning would produce better outcomes. So I think that's really the tone. It's a longer term relationship. Obviously, this will come up again. We will go through this process again, probably many times in the years to come. So for what that's worth.
I mean, a very cursory look at their website, but it looks like there are skill sets and that might align with work that we're doing sometimes. So, you
Yeah.
know, Sun Tzu says, make your enemies your allies. So, when we see what we can find that would encourage them to be good neighbors of ours,
I think
and
we all
vice
have
versa.
The same
Agreed.
mission. Yeah.
I agree. We don't want to be we definitely do not want to be in any kind of antagonistic relationship with another mission oriented nonprofit.
Yeah, exactly.
The goal is to get along.
Yeah.
I just,
and go ahead. Sorry, Rebecca.
no, it's just interesting what their point of view is in terms of what they would be adding and giving to the community in terms of where how is it over. Oh my goodness. Never mind. Never mind.
Okay.
Never mind. Just, I don't know. Some of you guys know Noe, I guess, right? Noe, but there's a lot of, I don't know whether it's not relevant to this meeting. It has to do with training programs for youth in the building trades. Totally not part of this conversation. I don't, just felt like, so I'll leave it there. Thank you. Huck Finn theory. Thank you for doing that.
So that's it for today, unless anybody else has other items we want to discuss. Well, there's about 20 minutes after daylight. Get out there and enjoy yourselves.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Night.